The film is set in the Dutch East Indies of 1946 during the Indonesian National Revolution. 20-year-old soldier Johan de Vries from Arsen is sent to Semarang, where the Dutch army says it is to liberate the Indonesian people from the authority of Sukarno. Johan believes in the promise to help the population, but soon discovers that the reality is different. After a military vehicle transports the new recruits to Camp Matjan Liar the next day, they are met by the barracks commander, who gives them a short tour of their new place. Because they don't know who the imposters are, new recruits are told not to put their faith in anybody else. As soon as Johan and Corporal Kulen arrive at their sleeping quarters, Johan almost gets into a fight with his comrade. The regulations of the camp are taught to them by Major Pender. The new recruits are informed by Lieutenant Hartmann that they will be split into 3 groups and sent on patrols. Afterward, the major and lieutenant let them go to work on their personal belongings. On the same night, everyone in the dining hall, including the recruits, assembles for a prayer led by Major Pender. All of the troops return to their barracks after supper, except for Johan, who chooses to explore the camp before going to bed. He sees an officer in the camp trafficking women, who then leads the victims into a nearby room. Johan disregards this and makes his way to the camp's night watch. He strikes up a conversation with the on-duty night guard and requests a smoke. Johan decides to step in for the time being. Outside the camp, Johan and other troops scout a rice field the following morning. Johan inquires of a nearby farmer, using a translation book, about any strange activity. Even though the farmer seems afraid in his presence, Johan reassures the farmer that he will not harm. The recruits have arrived to assist in the defense of the region. As Johan and his troops continue their search, one of the locals approaches them and gives them information. The locals inform them that there has been no unusual activity in the prior months. They keep an eye out for any suspicious activity for the time being. Gunshots can be heard suddenly outside. One of the guards has shot a monkey, so they go to investigate right away. Later that night, they prepare the monkey and serve it to one another like a meal. After dinner, one of the soldiers sings a song around the campfire. Later on in the day, Johan and the others are roused from their rest by a screaming child. Previously, they'd checked upon him as a resident of a neighboring community. The kid observes a strange activity in their town the previous night. The patrol leader has everything ready and packed up right away so they can check out the neighborhood. To be safe, they are instructed to be on high alert at all times. It's shocking to see 2 heads of deceased individuals with their private organs in their mouths displayed outside a home in the village. When Johan sees the horrific crime, he pukes. That night, Johan and the other soldier review what they have seen earlier and come up with a list of potential suspects. Recruits are given a heads up by Lieutenant Hartmann before they leave the camp that they may end up in the forest. It is a long distance from the patrol's base of operations. The patrol cautions Johan not to pursue the suspects. Johan is out buying with a native in the public market. He sees the Japanese robbing the natives of their belongings. After being ordered to leave, Johan stays to aid the locals. Captain Turk, a commanding officer, comes in his vehicle and greets him. The captain threatens the Japanese that he will shoot their commander in the head if they don't return the stolen goods. Captain Turk is joined by Johan, who issues a warning to the other Japanese soldiers to put down their weapons. The Japanese soldiers follow and depart as well. Johan inquires about Captain Turk's location as they make their approach to the camp. Johan is awed by Captain Turk's strength and unflinching bravery, something he has never seen before. This individual piques Johan's interest, and he sets out to find him by asking around. However, Johan and his group head out for a night of fun in the town in a nearby village. Aside from attending the show and mingling with the locals, they also overnight lease females to have a good time. His first encounter with Gita, a local prostitute, is in the red light area. Gita is a great hostess to Johan and loves their journey to the heaven of sins. Following a long night's sleep, Johan and his team are all exhausted when they report to their captain the following day. They get a fantastic night's sleep after their walk. This 3-day patrol across Kliwang Sawa territory is declared by the commander. Their task will be overseen by Corporal Kulen, the commander reveals. Immediately after their dismissal, they head directly into the woods and search every local for any signs of any rebels. Johan interviews with a resident called Gato. According to Gato, it is safe for him to provide the whereabouts of the rebels. Gato, on the other hand, remains silent and claims ignorance. Since the recruits were sent out 3 months ago, they haven't encountered a single enemy. Johan and his squad are out again to patrol and secure the region they've been assigned to monitor and protect. They've made it to the bush, where they've seen wild monkeys. Before they could cross the river, Corporal Kulen's team hears gunshots and hits one of the soldiers, Werner. Johan promises Werner that they will all be able to return home if he survives. Unfortunately, he is not able to make it and dies instantly. The soldiers return to the camp and bury Werner. In the distance, the captain keeps a watch out for the fallen soldier's grave. On the same night, Johan, Matthias, Matthias and Delval go to the tavern to have a drink about Werner's loss. To complicate matters, Matthias insults an indie queen image and then gets into a brawl with a group of Japanese individuals who are also imbibing in the same tavern. As Delval lies dying, Johann and Matthias manage to flee the establishment. They go directly to the red light district to blow off some steam with Gita since they are so frustrated. Major Pender summons Johann and Matthias the next day. The messes they've made will be investigated. Corporal Kulin tells Johann that he will face dire consequences if he gets into any trouble. Due to Johann's father, he is also cautioned against becoming a traitor. Because they are aware that his father had been a member of the Nazis, Johann is outraged. When the troops learn that the rebel who shot and murdered Werner has been apprehended, their morning routine is disrupted. Lieutenant Hartmann requests Johann's assistance in interrogating the rebel. The rebels merely say they want Indonesia to be free. Johann is tasked with patrolling the camp the following day. In front of the gate, a local man approaches to tell him about the rebels. Johann attempts to stop the man, but the information he has is crucial, so he allows the man to continue divulging about the rebel group's origins in the Indonesian city of Semarang. To Major Pender, Johann goes with the locals. It's known as Gagak Hitam. The local is pleading for aid because the rebels have kidnapped his 2 daughters and are holed up in his home. Johann turns to Captain Turk for assistance after being declined by Major Pender to search for rebels. Johann accompanies the local to him and leaves all the knowledge he has on him. The captain asks the local if he can provide him with instructions to his home. He'll track down the insurgents. In recognition of Johann's bravery, Captain Turk has requested him to accompany him on this journey. Johann escapes from the camp to join Captain Turk and a local called Samuel on the day of their operation. He'll help Captain Turk and Johann find the map the locals ask for his assistance in finding. To avoid detection by the insurgents, they must disguise themselves and blend in with the woods. Samuel is in charge of executing the rebel guards at the victim's residence. In the end, they can find the 2 women and neutralize the remaining rebels who have surrounded the home where they are hiding. Since that day, Johann and Captain Turk have been pursuing the rebels without the Major's authorization. The courageous guy once told him that his first kill was very significant. Turk had handed Johann his weapon, with which he neutralized the insurgent as a memento. In contrast, Major Pender orders Johann and Matthias to release the captured rebel. When they enter the forest, they bind the rebel's hands and let him go. On the other hand, Johann counts up to 5 and executes him. Like his comrade Werner, he mercilessly neutralizes the insurgent. To Captain Turk, Johann continues to report on the progress of his potent weapon of choice. Meanwhile, Johann is beginning to develop feelings for Gita and has even started to give her presents and money. Captain Turk and Johann have been invited to a party that evening. Captain Turk convenes a secret meeting with other military leaders to assemble an elite force to combat the insurgents. After persuading a few of his colleagues to join Captain Turk's newly established special forces, Johann has begun training them. Along with getting to know Gita romantically, he also helps the former prostitute decide to leave the dark alleys of the red light district for good. Captain Turk elevates Johann to the rank of corporal in recognition of his outstanding performance. On his way to Gita's residence one morning, Johann notices something peculiar about Gita. He is compelled to enter Gita's house stealthily. Johann can track down Gita's fiancée. Gita has profited financially through the exploitation of Johann. He hurriedly exits the room to calm down. It's the day of their special operation, and Johann's soldiers are stationed on a remote island. It's time for them to settle in. They rest and prepare their weapons for their first task of the day. Early the following day, they raid the community. They have reason to believe that the locals are rebels themselves. Johann has a nagging suspicion that something isn't quite right with their operation. These 15 people are on Captain Turk's list of suspects from the village. Individually calling out each name and then executing them, he goes down the list one by one. Johann and his men bury the victims of this massacre. Even if Captain Turk's information is reliable, Johann wants to know whether Turk's knowledge is 100% accurate. Johann has changed his mind about their purpose. Captain Turk's special forces become notorious for executions in every community they storm. It bothers Johann that the suspects are convicted and killed without any trial. Gradually, Johann starts to question the war more and more. In one of the settlements, a suspect claims to be innocent and to have been framed. Johann pleads to find out before the man is convicted, which Captain Turk interprets as insubordination and treason. He then declares Johann an outlaw and orders the corps to shoot him. Johann flees into the jungle and kills soldier Eddie Kulin. To his great surprise, Matthias also turned against him. After a confrontation with Captain Turk, Johann finally manages to escape with a gunshot wound. Once in the Netherlands, Johann is unable to pick up his old life. He cannot find a job and struggles with hatred towards his father. Years later, he visits Captain Turk in a theater where he works as an actor. Johann shoots him in the stomach and then commits suicide. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.